Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Feldman, the president of the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, HABRI for short, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Pet Week on Capitol Hill. We are so pleased to bring you a week of educational programming, and for those of you located in Washington, D.C., we're going to have Pet Night on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, the 20th. But for everyone watching, pets are so important to our lives. The human-animal bond is powerful, and it has real implications for the daily lives of most Americans. So we're going to have an overview of the power of the human-animal bond, and that'll hopefully tee us up for a really wonderful week ahead. First thing I'd like to do really is say thank you for attending, and also thank our session sponsor, the World Pet Association. WPA brings us so much important data and education and supports pet businesses all across the United States and the world. I'd also like to thank all of the sponsors for Pet Week on Capitol Hill, without whom all of this wonderful programming, all of these wonderful events would not be possible. So why Pet Week? Well, it really comes down to how important pets are for so many Americans. The U.S. pet sector contributes $260 billion to the U.S. economy. There are more than 125,000 veterinarians in the United States and more than 130,000 people who work in pet supply stores. So the pet economy is important to the U.S. economy. It's also important to know that 2/3 of Americans have at least one pet in the household, and many of those households have 2 or more pets. And it's universal at this point. Almost 100%, 98% of people say that pets are important members of the family. So as policymakers, as people who have an influence on the way society focuses on pets, it's important to know that pets are members of the family and that we love them and care for them deeply. And there are real issues that affect the millions and millions of families who have pets. We want to make sure, of course, that we have healthy pets available for families that want them. We want to make sure we can bring them into a happy home with pet-inclusive housing where pets are truly welcome. And we want to make sure that we can care for those pets, especially with access to affordable, high-quality veterinary care. And Congress and many people across the country have a role to play in making sure that we address these issues. So let's talk for a moment about the human-animal bond. The American Veterinary Medical Association defines the human-animal bond as a mutually beneficial and dynamic relationship. So think of it this way. The things we do as pet owners are clearly important to our pets' health, but our pets are very important to our health, and there's really good science behind that. That's what the Human Animal Bond Research Institute does, is invest in the science to show that pets are good for people and people are good for pets. In fact, our vision is that the human-animal bond is universally embraced as an essential part of human wellness, that just like eating our vegetables and getting our exercise, pets belong on that list. Pets are part of having happy, healthy families. And the way we're going to accomplish that is first through science, but then we need to educate people about that scientific research, and we need to advocate for a more pet-friendly society so that people and pets and the communities where they live can truly benefit from the human-animal bond. So think of HABRI as your resource for all things related to the human-animal bond. We've built the world's largest resource library on human-animal interaction science. We've done this in partnership with Purdue University. We've funded a robust pipeline of new research, more than 50 research projects at universities all across the United States and the world, looking at the benefits of pets for people. We use that science for education and outreach to truly encourage a more pet-friendly society. And then we develop tools and information to support policymakers and the public. So, for example, in partnership with the Michelson Found Animals Foundation, we've created the Pet Inclusive Housing Initiative to tackle that issue I mentioned before of pet inclusive housing. We have all kinds of resources that we've produced on pet-friendly workplaces. During the pandemic, we all got used to having pets by our sides as we worked from home if we could. And now people want to have more pet-friendly workplaces, as well as the flexibility to be at home with their pets. We operate the Pet Giving Network, which helps pet businesses support frontline rescuers who are helping pets on the front lines of natural disasters like wildfires and floods and hurricanes. And of course, we operate Pet Night on Capitol Hill, which is going to be coming up this Wednesday. And members of Congress and their staffs and the entire pet care community is invited to really share the message that pets are essential for human health. One thing I can say about the human-animal bond is it's incredibly unifying. So many companies and organizations across the pet care community are contributing and supporting the research on the human-animal bond, and we're truly grateful for their support because they're making incredible research possible. So let's talk about that research for a second. We have research to show that pets are absolutely essential for cardiovascular health, for the reduction of obesity, so our physical health can be improved tremendously by having pets in our lives. I think everybody during the pandemic came to realize how important pets are for our mental health in addressing the epidemic of loneliness in our society. And there's good science to show that pets help in the long-term management of mental health conditions. And even if you can't have a pet, animal-assisted therapy has been shown to be incredibly beneficial, especially for conditions like anxiety and stress. So pets are incredibly important for our children. Our children learn and grow with pets in their lives, and they do better in terms of their development when they have pets. In an educational setting, pets have been shown to actually boost academic performance and improve behavior amongst children. And we funded a number of studies to show that children on the autism spectrum can benefit tremendously in terms of improved social skills and more family harmony as a result of having pets and service animals in their lives. And I think we all know how important pets are for victims of trauma. We funded one of the most important studies on veterans and post-traumatic stress. And in part because of that scientific research, Congress has allocated money to support service dogs for veterans with PTSD through the Veterans Administration. And we know that pets are important for recovery and healing for the unhoused, for victims of domestic violence. And Congress, in fact, has allotted appropriations to help domestic violence shelters become pet friendly because it's so important for survivors of domestic violence to have pets in their lives. So you can see there's all kinds of issues related to the science behind the human-animal bond. So like I said, we have more than 50 projects going, but that's just a little bit of background on the science of the human-animal bond. One of the reasons, by the way, that the human-animal bond is so impactful is because pets actually impact our brain chemistry, boosting serotonin and dopamine and other endorphins, and really reducing cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So we're less stressed. We're experiencing oxytocin, the love hormone, when we're interacting with our pets. And this is beneficial across so many different health conditions. So now I have some really exciting news to share with you. With the support of all of our partners, and especially Banfield Pet Hospital, we commissioned the second of 2 studies on the healthcare cost savings of pet ownership. Back when we first did this in 2015, we were able to calculate a modest $11.7 billion savings to the US healthcare system because pet owners are healthier. And we've almost doubled that now because the science has advanced and the calculations have gone further. We can now show a $22.7 billion savings to the US healthcare system resulting from pet ownership. You can find the full report on the HABRI website, but I'm going to take you through some of the highlights. First thing I want to say is that the authors conducted a serious literature review. They built upon the literature that they looked at from 2015 to do it again here in 2023. They took the most up-to-date cost estimates for various healthcare diagnoses and treatment. They also used the publicly available data from the American Pet Products Association on pet ownership, number of people who have pets, and they put all of this into a calculation to show how healthcare costs are reduced because pets keep us healthier. And in fact, they even had a discussion of the various ways that pets keep us healthier, where they weren't quite able to get that calculation over the finish line. But this lets us know that the numbers you're about to see are actually a conservative estimate when it comes to the savings that pet ownership produces for our healthcare system. So let's get right into it. First thing is that pets are good for our overall health. A number of studies show that people actually visit the doctor's office less often when they have pets. And this produces a $15 billion savings to the US healthcare system. That's using the average cost of a primary healthcare visit. We've reduced doctor visits by $15 billion, which is important to save every penny we can when it comes to our healthcare. $1.8 billion in reduced loneliness for older Americans. So older Americans are more prone to loneliness and social isolation. And by making seniors less lonely, and by the way, loneliness is associated with all kinds of adverse health outcomes. So if we can reduce loneliness, we can reduce a lot of negative health conditions, especially for senior citizens. And the researchers were able to calculate a $1.8 billion savings specifically for the federal Medicare system. And that's not insignificant. 672 million were saved in terms of child mental health. Children in the 8 to 10-year-old range were found to have fewer clinical diagnoses of anxiety when they had pets in the home. Now, I think this could be generalized to other age groups, but since the study that the researchers found focused on 8 to 10-year-olds, they made the calculation for 8 to 10-year-olds and calculated $672 million savings in terms of treatment for anxiety amongst children. And we mentioned veterans with post-traumatic stress before. The researchers were able to calculate a $688 million savings in terms of treatment for post-traumatic stress for veterans who have both service dogs and emotional support animals. And when it comes to pets, you might think, well, this one's obvious. People who walk their dogs 5 or more times a week are statistically less obese. There's quite a bit of money that goes into obesity treatments in our healthcare system. And the researchers were able to calculate a $4.5 billion savings to our healthcare system just from reduced treatment for obesity. And finally, this is one that you might not have thought of, infection prevention. It turns out that people in institutional settings are less likely to be reinfected with common institution-based infections, C. diff in particular, $90.5 million saved in infection prevention. And the hypothesis behind this is that pets strengthen our immune system and our gut microbiome and make us less likely to get infections. So again, more physical evidence that pets are incredibly beneficial for us. So when you add it all up, you get a $22.8 billion savings to the US healthcare system just from pet ownership. And this number is much likely higher. These are just a limited number of conditions where we had all the calculation pieces in place to show the savings. So when you think about pets being important for our mental and physical health, just know that there's a monetary outcome for that as well in terms of the savings that pets produce for all of us. So let me see if I can wrap this up. I could go on all day about how much we love our pets and how good they are for us, but let's just talk about the strong connection. A strong connection based on scientific research that shows that pets are so good for us, for our mental and physical health. The strong connection that we should all make to show that the human-animal bond can drive better public health. In fact, we should be really thinking about pets as a positive public health strategy. I mean, think about it. We spend all this time trying to get people to eat right, and we spend all this time trying to get people to get their exercise. If we also spent public health effort and energy to make sure that people could be happy and healthy with their pets, the payoff would be enormous. And of course, this leads us to support pet-friendly legislation that encourages pet ownership, creates pet-friendly housing, and supports the veterinary profession. And of course, you're all invited to celebrate the power of pets by watching the Pet Week programming all this week and attending Pet Night on Capitol Hill if you're watching this from the Washington, D.C. area. So I do want to invite you to stay connected to HABRI, the Human Animal Bond Research Institute. Come to habri.org and learn more about the science. And of course, we want you to connect with us on social media. We've got amazing programming this week. You'll be able to see all of this at petnight.com. We're also going to stream this on the HABRI Facebook page. So I want you to check the schedule, mark your calendars, and come back for some fabulous and important programming to learn all about the impact of pets on our lives. Thank you again to the session sponsor for this session, the World Pet Association. And thank you so much to all of the Pet Week sponsors who make the exciting events of this week possible. And thank you again for watching. As president of the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, I'm so pleased that you've joined us and so excited to be celebrating Pet Week on Capitol Hill with you. Looking forward to seeing you soon.